And you know what I think that Meshi do the best is communication. So it's touch points every way. We've packaged it. It's on the way, all of that. And not only that, they back it up with really fast shipping.
Mm. This week in e-commerce, episode 94. I am Mal Chia, recording from the road, not in my usual setup. I'm from a hotel this time, but with me again for the third week in a row, Alex Ross. Alex, how are you?
Hello, Val. I'm well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. The weather is terrible here in Sydney, so I've escaped what looks like fairly sunny Adelaide to come to Sydney where there's like weather warnings all over the shop.
Heard that. It's beautiful down in Adelaide. 3 degrees this morning, freezing, but beautiful blue skies.
Excellent. And speaking of a beautiful day, it was your birthday on the weekend, I hear.
It was, yes. 30th birthday on Sunday.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. And how does it feel to tick over that mark?
Yeah, mixed feelings, but excited for what's next. I suppose. I don't know. I kind of take it like every birthday is a privilege, right?
That's right. And a couple of weeks ago as well, we spoke about your birthday party. Did you find all the right decorations? Are you all set?
We did, except I've just ordered about 2 hours ago a backup outfit. And my experience, it's with Meshki, is they'll have it like on the plane tonight, over in my letterbox tomorrow.
Excellent. You got to love that service.
It's unbelievable. And you know what I think that Meshki do the best is communication. So it's touch points every way. We've packaged it. It's on the way, all of that. And not only that, they back it up with really fast shipping.
Look, I think that's really important when you talk about, this, like the next day delivery or someone who's paying for that premium service. I'm assuming you had to pay a premium for the next day delivery.
I think it was over X amount, maybe 150, 200, and you easily beat that with one of their dresses. So all included.
Yeah, great. Look, I know that whenever I use the JB Hi-Fi service, it's like you're getting the messages, pings along the way, you know exactly where it is. So
Yeah.
it arrives, 20 minutes, like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
New AirPods.
I did in a financial year purchase on Saturday morning as well, actually. The good guys drove on down, got a new dryer.
Excellent. Did they install it for you?
No, they did not, because they couldn't, but we had a great chat with the attendant in store, and he kind of sorted that all out. I was ready to pay 120 to sort it out, and he said, you can just put it up there yourselves, won't be too difficult, and it wasn't.
Now, let me ask you something. Would you have ever considered buying this appliance online sight unseen?
Yes. If it wasn't for my partner, 100%, absolutely. I knew the dimension, I knew the brand, I knew the year, that it was a no-brainer. I knew what I wanted. So, yeah, I would have, to be honest.
Yep. But your partner wanted to go in there and touch and feel.
Yeah, more.
I'm all about anything which gives me back a little bit of time, and it's not a low involvement purchase, but I did all the research for our new dishwasher. Did all the research. We knew exactly what we wanted. Went straight to appliances online, and we just bought it. And because I didn't need to see it. Like I kind of know what it looks like already. All the reviews are really good. I just don't want to bother with it. It's too much time to go there, especially with 2 kids as well. Who's going to look after the kids, or the kids just going to run around the store? And I'll be like, oh my God, get out of there. Let go of that.
I think that's the thing, is it's a stage of life. So for me and my partner, it's a bit of a going out together, spending some time together, a slower Saturday. Whereas for you with kids, absolute chaos, stay away.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about it. Like when it was just my wife and I, it would have been a bit of a slower time. We could just go there, walk around, even with one baby. Now with like with the 6-year-old and 3-year-old, they are just chaos everywhere they go. We're just walking disasters.
Too much.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of too much, there is a lot to cover this week. We're going to break the mold and actually go through quite a few stories because it was just like non-stop in terms of like everything we had to cover off. So we're going to dive into a few quick headlines first. Number one is Jeans West. So we talked about the Jeans West going to administration a little while ago. Some good news, it turns out, with their workers, with Jeans West employees looking like they're going to get 100% of their owed wages and entitlements as well. So really good news on that front, but not so good news though, is it? For others.
Yeah, good news for some, not for others, all right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like all their unsecured creditors are only going to be getting 2 cents on the dollar back, which obviously isn't a good thing for all the suppliers who provided them, lords, etc. Yeah, good news and bad news there. And then looking at Google, we talked a little bit a while ago as well about Google launching their new AI shopping app, Virtual Try-On app. That's been baked into the shopping app already on the Google search function, but now they've actually released it as a standalone app, Doppl, which is short for doppelganger, I found out, which looks pretty cool. Just like a fun way to be able to upload your image, your photo, and then it animates it as well. You can then upload outfits and it will then put the outfit onto you as well to show you how it looks. I could definitely have used that from my last purchase from Uniqlo, where nothing fit.
Really, that's such a bummer.
Yeah,
I'm a bit skeptical until it requires data like measurements, material. From what I was reading, it's just an upload of an image. Super impressive, the video and that kind of live action piece. But for jeans and these pieces that are really fitment specific, I still think there's a way to go.
absolutely. And look, I think shout out to Zoltan from MagicFit or slash Citizen Wolf about the tool which they've built called MagicFit, which actually takes in all those measurements. So when you actually use it, I've got a couple of clients who are going to be trying it out soon. You actually upload all the product information, so all the measurements of everything, and then you also upload what your body measurements are. So length of your torso, length of your legs. So it'll actually match it pretty well, and I think that's pretty cool. But it takes that extra work to do that. A, you have to know your measurements, and then B, whoever's uploading the product also needs to upload that. And people who upload products generally do not like putting in all that extra info, I found.
Exactly. Unless, remember Foot Locker where you can do your run. If I could just stand in front of the screen, it just takes away measurements, does all of that for me. Maybe that's the next step.
Yeah, well, shout out to Sportitude, who championed that similar service in running, where they actually had the service there and measured your foot, measured your gait, and would recommend a shoe for you based on what your biometrics were, which I thought was pretty cool. That's probably the next step. And then finally, after talking about Labubu 2 weeks ago, we can't help but talk about Labubu again. And Labubu have partnered with Uniqlo.
Yes. Yeah. Labubu's everywhere. We all know that. I think it's just a money train that we're watching at the moment from the sidelines. The CEO made top billionaire, made some list from Pop Mart. So they're doing really well.
They are. There was two people on my flight to Sydney this week with Labubus on there.
Yeah, no, you
I
just see
couldn't
them
help but
everywhere.
yeah. Now I see them everywhere. It's
Yeah,
And there's also, I saw a Labubu, a Pop Mart store, which is opening up, I believe, in a World Square in Sydney.
it's cool. Yeah, great
So,
spot.
yeah, it's going to be everywhere soon. All right. And which brings us now to the biggest story of the week, which is one of the richest men in the world has got married. So Jeff Bezos tied the knot with Lauren Sanchez in the wedding of, well, let's face it, it's probably the wedding of the century right now with the amount of money they spent on it. So I believe about $150 million is some of the numbers I've heard bandying about. They've got married with all their celebrity friends in Venice, and well, not in Venice because there were protests, and it was on Jeff Bezos's boat, one of his two boats, I believe. And there was an interesting article in the New York Times which reflected on the fact that this wedding is an exercise in excess with everything which is involved in it, with all the guests, with even Lauren Sanchez's outfits. And it sort of heralds this rise of tackiness where we've gone from this era through the COVID era of quiet luxury, everything being a little bit more restrained. And it just seems that with a second term of Donald Trump, we've just gone, stuff that. We're just going to go big and bigger than ever before. What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to unpack here. Everything in excess piece is definitely true, but I saw some really interesting stat around Bezos dropping 50 mil on his wedding is something like the equivalent of somebody making 120K a year, spending $25. So it's definitely excess. I think, look, not even subjectively, objectively, it's excessive how much he spent, but it's all relative.
Mm. Okay, because what
And
they're saying as well about it's not just about the excess of the wedding itself and how much it costs, but also just the fashion as well, where they're talking about for men like these really hyper masculine looks around like big bow ties, big Windsor knots, big power suits are coming back in. But for the women, it's like breast implants apparently have never been bigger than
yeah,
well, not the breast implant industry. I don't know whether the implants themselves are bigger than ever, but the breast implant industry is going through some sort of renaissance at the moment.
Probably a bit of both. That one of my favorite quotes in that article, it was really well written, super interesting, was the swaggy and braggy has replaced stealth wealth. So yeah, it is that flashy piece, and it's great for the premium luxury fashion market.
So are you seeing this reflected in any of the data which you look at? Obviously, through your work and my work, we're privy to a lot, which we see in the retail space. Have you seen that reflected in terms of what is selling at the moment in fashion or in jewelry?
I think it'll be interesting to see that effect. Reading some stats around the luxury market, like we know that it has dropped and it's super dependent on those loyal shoppers. Not too sure how that'll affect kind of that mid market. We're a little bit more, let's say, insulated from this. We're restricted by those purse strings. So we'll see. What about you? What do you think of the impact?
Definitely in the jewelry sector, you're seeing a lot of this as well. And we talked about this last week where novelty jewelry is becoming very popular as well.
Yeah.
$1,000 hamburger charm, but also the rise of charms as well, where charms by their very nature are meant to get your attention. It's not meant to blend in. It's meant to be something which you put on your existing wallet or purse or something like that to essentially bedazzle it, to make it, more than what it is. So it needs to stand out. So I think we are seeing, people's desire to personalize, to put their own identity onto something. And to do that, looking for increasingly flashier ways, whether it be through a hamburger keyring or through a Labubu to make it stand out as being theirs.
Yeah, 100%. And I saw some commentary around the value of jewelry specific to handbags recently as well, and how like consumers are finding more value in jewelry rather than that handbag. So I think we'll see that kind of trickle down too. And we are seeing a lot of jewelry and accessory clients doing really well at the moment.
Yep. Yep. Because I think people don't have the disposable income for the big purchases anymore. But if they can justify $100 a little accessory to put onto their bag, why not?
Yep,
Now,
exactly.
very tangentially, you might have heard Anna Wintour, legendary editor of Vogue in the US, editor-in-chief of Vogue in the US. She recently stepped down, and this is a bit of the headlines where she stepped down, but really she got promoted into a
Yes.
global editor role. Did you hear the joke about why she stepped down?
No, I just thought it was clickbaity, but tell me, what's the joke?
Because she put Lauren Sanchez on the cover.
Uh, there you go.
So she put Lauren Sanchez on the cover. All this has happened. They've become this symbol of excess and wealth and tackiness. And
Yeah.
in disgrace, she's had to step down. At least that's what I heard anyway. It's obviously bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. Right. No, I thought it was very funny, stepping down. And it was like, oh, actually, to take this new role and for that existing role to be completely different. So she'll be the last
Global.
stand. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So big news there on the fashion front. A lot really happening in fashion at the moment. Okay. Now, one of my favorite topics is omnichannel. You know how much I love talking about crossing over those digital and those physical spaces, and all the retailers who I think are just doing an incredible job of that at the moment, whether it be LSKD, Muscle Republic with their pop-ups and more. Well, Melbourne is about to get their very first Barbie store, actually Australia's first Barbie store, and Barbie Cafe, and the first Barbie Cafe outside of the United States. I took my son and I watched the Barbie movie on the weekend, and he only wanted to watch it because John Cena, the wrestler, was in it. And he's only in it for like 2 seconds, but I convinced him to watch it because of that. And he absolutely adored the movie. So when I told him there was going to be a Barbie Cafe, he's like, I want to go. And I thought that was pretty cool about this whole, where this, from taking this symbol of mass consumerism, this Barbie doll, which is then crossed over into popular culture and now moving into the physical space as well as a place which people can go and dine at now. What do you think about that, Alex? Would you go to a Barbie cafe?
With
I'm putting you on the
children.
spot.
With children, perhaps. No, I did like the inclusion that in addition to the Barbie Cafe being the family-friendly offering, they do have Ken's Cabana, a bar area, which operates on Fridays and Saturday nights. So maybe I'd go to that part. Maybe not a Barbie Cafe with children during the day.
But it does show how much we're kind of crossing over into these third spaces now. And that's actually become one of the big trends of the moment, where in New York, especially, there's this trend of young entrepreneurs starting up laundromats, but starting up laundromats which then act as cafes, working spaces because they're a place where everyone needs to do their laundry. Your apartment's probably too small to have a laundry. So you bring it to the laundromat, and while you're there, you get a coffee, you do your work, and you mingle. And people are like dating in these spaces because they're creating these third spaces where people who share common interests can actually meet outside of that. And in that same vein with the Barbie Cafe, Netflix soon to be opening their first IRL stores as well, which are going to be similar, where it's going to be a store, it's going to be a restaurant, which is going to bring in all those great Netflix IPs, such as Squid Games. And you'll be able to interact with it in a physical space with other people who share your common love of Squid Games.
Yeah, it's a great way to monetize it. And do you remember when they did a pop-up for Squid Games in, I think it was Bondi? Did you see that a few months ago?
I did. Yes.
Yep. So I think it's a great way of just bringing all of that to life. Even my mind goes, they did the Squid Games kind of reality show, if you will. So maybe they can incorporate elements of the games that the reality contestants did in that kind of like universe and that experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's so important to highlight how much popular culture now drives consumer culture as well, where,
Yes.
you could look back maybe like 2, 3 years ago, there was a clearer distinction, but more and more we're seeing the need to be able to leverage these entertainment properties like Squid Game, Stranger Things into consumer products, whether it be pajamas or candles, to be able to bring it that cultural relevance. And even when you look at people's buying behavior, there's so many places now where people only buy from them when they do a collaboration or when they do a license, because that gives you that urgency, that need. Otherwise, it's just another garment. It's just another XYZ
Yeah.
until you put the Netflix logo on it or Squid Games.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a beautiful way of growing lifetime value. Like Harry Potter world is super popular. It's nostalgic at this point. So if anything, Netflix is going to have this beautiful Rolodex and they can just roll out different kind of experiences based on what's trending and kind of bringing those old things back.
Yeah. Look, and let's face it, that's where people are, what they're watching now, and they kind of create the culture with that. And whether you also have other channels as well, like HBO Max, I should say, with Last of Us, Game of Thrones, they've got those properties as well. Like I remember when Game of Thrones came out, that's all anyone talked about. And then
Exactly.
when you look at a company like Black Milk, when Black Milk then do their collaborations, they go absolutely bananas for them because they're tapping into that culture.
100%. I thought the venues were interesting, rolling out Philadelphia, Dallas, and then followed by Vegas.
Mm. Well, I think in Vegas, you kind of need to go big, right? Like you can't afford to go into Vegas with something half-assed. So I think it's a good move to be testing it out in a couple of smaller, quote unquote, smaller markets first before Vegas.
Yeah, that'll be an
Yeah,
epic experience.
it will be just like, and you see so many big things in Vegas. Like you can't go small in a city like that. Whether you be talking about the Culture King store in Vegas, which is just ridiculous from all the footage I've seen,
Yes,
and
I've
actually
seen.
I had one of my clients over there the other day and was telling me all about it. But then also with the dome, have you seen that giant dome where they have the concert in?
Unbelievable. I get served. It comes on my TikTok algorithm all the time. The concerts. It looks insane.
Yeah, and that's what you're competing against, right? So if you can't put something which is going to be able to draw attention away from that in Vegas, don't even bother.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Now, I've had my fair share of experience with corporate merch, as I think everyone has. At some point, everyone has had to wear a uniform, I'm guessing. I've had to wear many uniforms throughout the years. How about you?
Well, when you said before you had experience for corporate merch, in my mind I go, okay, what's his experience? Has he worked for a corporate merch company? I mean, yes, we've all worn corporate merch, you, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Look, I used to work in a supermarket. So I used to work in a supermarket. I had my uniform, which I had to wear.
Yep. I had my McDonald's, standard trousers, the whole outfit, all of that.
Well, it looks like the Hawthorn Football Club have taken it to the next level in terms of what corporate merch is all about because they're collaborated with Cook Eye.
Yes. Yeah. I love this story. I thought it was interesting that it's corporate merch and not, I don't know, sportswear, but that's not what they're known for. right? So yeah, I thought this was brilliant, and the way that they're talking about is that encouragement of who's next. So thinking about, I heard this recently, Dr. Stacey Sims, she has a TED talk, Women Are Not Small Men, and it's so simple, but you're like, oh, like women are not small men. So like when we have like, okay, men are wearing the medium polo, women are not just the small polo. So this to me is just like embracing that and starting to have fashion for everybody.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about the article though was that it the statistics around retention as well, that women are more likely to leave somewhere where they don't feel included.
Yes.
Part of that is also starting with the uniform, like actually giving people something which they want to wear. And if you feel proud wearing that uniform, you don't think, my God, this is so baggy, it doesn't really fit well. Yeah, I look daggy. You're more likely to feel empowered and powerful when you're there and want to continue to show up at work every day.
Oh, 100%. And especially whoever worked at Cookai Hawthorn to make this all happen, come to life, amazing effort, right? So they'd be feeling even more proud when that kind of rolls out. And how cool to be wearing Cookai to work.
Look, and I wonder whether this is going to be the start of, for uniforms to actually start to becoming a little bit trendier. Just in the same way where you look at figs in the US, which is a publicly listed company, they grew very, very quickly, to being, I think, doing about a $1 billion valuation, in a short period of time, just by selling really cool scrubs.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've got doctor friends of mine and your partners in the medical industry, I believe.
Yes, yeah. He hasn't graduated to those funky scrubs. I always see the Gorman ones as well. No, this is the hospital standard ones.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I've got a friend of mine who only wears like the funky scrubs. Yeah,
Yeah,
and she's got bluey scrubs as well, which I thought were pretty cool. So
that's really cool.
yeah, she's saying when she's on the pediatric ward, the kids love it.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good acquisition strategy as well. For maybe not so much for figs if they only do scrubs, but for Kokai, like getting potential shoppers into their products, getting that feel, understanding their size, to then start to shop that wider range.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a
And
good way
same with
to yeah.
Gorman. Yeah, sorry. And so I was just going to say the same with Gorman too. So having those scrubs, you feel that shopper, and then moving into their fashion.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, now the last story which we're going to cover off is a brand which I talk about way too much, which is Nike. And Nike have reported that in the last quarter, their sales have dropped a further 12%. But Elliot Hill, their new CEO, has actually said that the silver lining on this, though, is that he believes this is going to be the bottom of the dip and that the good times are soon to be returning to Nike. I know this is a brand and a story which, I've come back to many times over the last 12 months. Alex, what do you think? Do you think that it's too much of an uphill battle, pardon the pun, for Nike? Or do you think Elliot Hill's up to the task?
Well, I think he's optimistic, which I appreciate. We keen to see the numbers, in the next quarter and so on, and how that all starts to shape up. I thought his reorganization approach was really interesting, starting to really focus on those different sports and being the expert, having that R&D piece specific to each sport because they've got such a range of competitors. What did you think of the reorganization approach?
I think that's something which he flagged when he started, that they need to then reorient around sports. But what really got me the most, though, in his announcement to shareholders was the fact that he was seeing the fight come back into Nike. And I
Yes.
thought that was really cool because that's something which, from a cultural standpoint, you kind of lose when you're the top dog. When you're the top dog for a long time, it's very easy to become complacent and to let everyone catch up. Let's look at Google and search, for instance. Like search is quickly, dropping down. I was statistics from Meta today showing that people's product discovery behavior is down 33% from search. The search impact is down 33%, which is huge. And when you look at this, you think that, okay, well, Nike have been the top dog for so long. Now they're going through some tough times. They're quickly reorganizing, they're restructuring, but the team now have hunger in them. And ultimately, like they can't reclaim that top spot again if they're not hungry. And to see that fire, that fight is coming back, that makes me think that Nike, also have more resources than everyone else. They're best positioned than anybody else to be able to take this fight to their competitors. Just like Rocky and Rocky 3 when Clubber Lang takes his title, and then he has to come back
I
and
have
defeat him.
no idea about that reference, but I agree with you. Like, I think that enthusiasm, that fight, it definitely feels like it's there. I saw some comment about how, like you said, as that top dog, they're continuing to fall out of favor. I thought that was an interesting quote. So yeah, how are they going to fight back? And they've definitely got the brand equity to do it.
Yeah, and a couple of other things is that they talk about the right sizing of the hero products as well, where if you look back, over the last few years, where in the John Donahoe years, they were leaning very heavily into some of the most popular silhouettes. So like Air Force Ones, Dunks, Jordan ones, and they were releasing them like nobody's business. Like every week there were like 3 or 4 new styles coming out. And what he's also saying now is that they've now right sized that as well, where they think they've got AF1s at the right spot, but Dunks, they need to reduce Dunks even more to create that scarcity around that exclusivity. Yeah, around it. And also in the meantime, one which I'm personally very excited about is tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. So on this Wednesday, the 2nd of July, is that they are releasing their new sneaker, which is the Nike Ava Rover, which I'm super pumped about because it looks so cool. And that was something which I haven't felt about a new Nike in ages. And I read all the blogs, but this one is the first one which has got me thinking like, okay, I reckon I'm going to be lining up and getting this since I'm going to be in Sydney anyway.
What about it makes you want to line up?
It looks futuristic. It's very modern. It's very futuristic. Yeah, it's got a real streetwear aesthetic to it as well. And they've collaborated with Hesian Sun, I think, which is a Korean designer, to launch it. And I just thought that was just like, okay, this is a really interesting angle which they've taken with this, rather than going down a very traditional route of launching it. They're looking to again kind of build that culture around it by launching with one of the hottest designers in the world right now.
Yeah, and interesting. Launching with a designer is a form of collab.
Exactly. So super exciting times. All right, Alex, that is all we've got time for this week. Have a great birthday this weekend.
Thank you. Yes,
We look forward to hearing more about next week.
I know. I feel like I've been drawing this out for a few weeks now. Yeah, last week will be the last of it. Yeah, I'm super pumped. What about you? What have you got on? You're in Sydney today. When are you coming back?
I'm in Sydney, back to Adelaide end of the week. Look, it's all busy times here as we now gear up towards BFCM, towards peak. The Meta event which I was at today was all about preparing for BFCM. I just like, guys, pump the brakes. It's like five months away. And then I actually did the math and went, actually, that's not that far away. We've only got 3 months to prep.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, as with you as well in the land of Athos commerce, getting all those new installations in the next couple of months.
Exactly, a lot of prep going on.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. Let someone know. It's the best way for people to find out about the podcast. In the meantime, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep selling. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you. Bye.